Hi everybody, welcome to our Bible study series. Today we are in 1 Chronicles chapter 24, and hopefully we can get this video finished before it gets dark. There's a football game or a soccer game outside. Every single night the kids go out and play on this old abandoned, unused road. They play football or soccer every night, and I kind of wish I was out there with them some nights. But we've got Chronicles to talk about. We're kind of on the home stretch. We got about 5 chapters to go, so let's get into chapter 24. If you go out to our website at tobelikechrist.com, you can download the PDF for this study. It's free. Now, as you probably know, the last 19 or so chapters of 1 Chronicles document the reign of David, which would have been between about 1055 and 1015 BC. We're getting towards the end of the book, and the last couple chapters in 1 Chronicles document events that happen right at the end of David's life. David is getting pretty old at this point. Now let's talk about the historical figures that are important to this chapter. First, David, the second king of Israel and Judah. Number 2, the Levites. These were the descendants of Jacob's son, Levi. They were a special tribe that was set apart and dedicated to the service of the Lord, and they helped the priests with worship and with the holy things in the tabernacle and in the temple. Then we have the priests. The priests were a subsection of the Levites. They were the descendants of Aaron, who was Moses' brother. Aaron was the first high priest, and then his sons took over after him. And then finally, two different priests to highlight here, Zadok and Ahimelech. They were leaders amongst the priests who helped David divide the priests into groups. That's what we're going to talk about in chapter 24. Our map is once again going to center around the city of Jerusalem, and that's because David and his son Solomon were planning to build a temple to the Lord in Jerusalem, and the priests and the Levites would travel to Jerusalem to participate in the worship there. Okay, now our outline section, it's relatively short today. If you've read the chapter, you probably understand why. Verses 1 through 31, David organizes the priests for service in the temple. So with the help of Zadok and Ahimelech, the priests, David divided up the rest of the priests by their fathers' houses. They were divided up based on which of Aaron's sons they descended from. Aaron had 4 sons, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. But 2 of them, Nadab and Abihu, they didn't have any children. Do you remember what happened to them? They disrespected God in the tabernacle, and God sent fire down from heaven and killed them. I think that's Leviticus chapter 10, if I remember correctly. So David organized the sons of Eleazar and Ithamar, Aaron's 2 other sons, according to their duties in the Lord's service. Right? So they're all being assigned jobs, broken down into groups. There were 16 groups within the sons of Eleazar and 8 groups from the sons of Ithamar. The groups were determined by casting lots, which was a form of random selection, but God often had his hand in the lot casting process. So that's how they were divided up. The heads of the 24 groups are recorded in verses 7 through 18, so that's a lot of the chapter. Verses 20 through 31 record further divisions among the Levites. These are the non-priests by their fathers' houses. These divisions were also made by casting lots. So lots of divisions of the priests going on in the last couple of chapters, trying to sort out how the worship of the Lord is going to continue on after David's death and when the temple is finally built. Something a little bit different in our application section. I've retitled it the explanation section, just for today, I believe. And the question is, well, you might have the question, I certainly did, why are all the priests getting divided up into groups? I mean, there's not a lot of explanation in the chapter itself, though. What's that about? Remember, well, maybe you remember, if you were with us for our earlier studies, the Levites didn't receive a portion of land like the other tribes when Joshua conquered the Promised Land. Instead, they were given cities that were scattered all throughout the Promised Land, and they lived in those cities all over the place. So if you look at the map, you see that it's divided out by the tribes. You'll see like Gad, Issachar, Judah, Simeon, they all have a portion of land. You won't see the tribe of Levi on there, and that's because they were given cities that were scattered all throughout the territory of the other tribes. Since the temple was going to be in a fixed location, Jerusalem, Levites and priests had to be assigned a specific time to travel to Jerusalem to participate in their portion of the work. They weren't all there all the time. They lived in these cities that were scattered around, and then they were assigned a schedule when they would come and participate in the worship, and then after their duties were fulfilled, they would return home to their cities. So that's a lot of the reason that these groups were created. Having these assigned groups and an assigned schedule ensured that there were always going to be priests and Levites at the temple to help complete the daily worship that was commanded in God's law.